Thank you for joining us today for another exclusive interview sponsored by Imovet. Help your horses reach their maximum potential with Imovet's line of natural homeopathic products. I'm your host today, Aurelian Drumian. Today we're joined by Steve O'Connor, director of Go Bloodstock and key figure behind rising star Lady of Camelot. After delivering Sir Owen Glenn a first Golden Slipper win and coming within striking distance in last year's Everest, Lady of Camelot is back stronger, more consistent, and very much in the frame for a second slot bid. We'll discuss what was learned from last year's Everest, her ongoing rivalry with Lady Shenandoah, the impact of a new jockey partnership, and her evolving campaign. With slot holders cycling, circling, and Group 1 form on her side, this is a filly with unfinished business and a stable determined to rewrite the ending. Great to have you here, Steve.
Good, great to be here. Thank you.
So last year, Everest was quite brutal, fourth. Looking back, what do you think went wrong that day? And more importantly, what did you learn about Lady of Camelot from that experience?
Look, I think on the day, we knew we had a light weight on the day and we wanted to take advantage of that and be on pace. And luckily, we drew barrier 11 that day, so we were wider than ideal, and the wide run definitely hurt us a little bit, but she's very tough and very brave. And I think what we learned afterwards was that the way we used to ride her in the slipper, where you get her to relax and switch off just in behind a horse, and then she can explode for a short sprint. And I think some of the best performances came just in behind the leader in the autumn when ridden in that way tactically. And I think that's even though she can perform to an elite level while ridden on pace, I think just that little tactical change really helps her to just get that few extra yards you need at that highest level.
For sure. She's been quite incredibly consistent this autumn. 3 straight seconds to Lady Shenandoah in group races, all by narrow margins. That's a completely different horse from last October. What do you think changed?
Look, I think what's changed is October came pretty hot on the heels of a quite arduous 2-year-old campaign. She was quite a young horse. She was up running in the first trials here in October of a 2-year-old year and ran straight through then until the Golden Slipper in at the end of March. And April then she ran at the championships. So the break they get then is it's not a huge amount of break because you want to get them back racing early September to put your hand up for an Everest slot. So you want to get them seen, get them so people know that you're going well. And we did that. So I think what the big change was we gave her she had a bit of a break, and she's matured physically. With that break, she came back in the autumn bigger and stronger. And I think we've seen that again for her 4-year-old season. So I think just physical development was a big factor.
And the form line with Lady Shenandoah is quite interesting. Beaten 1.2L, 0.2L, or 0.8 in their 3 meetings. How much confidence does that give you about her ability to turn the tables on the established stars, this time around?
Oh, absolutely. Look, I think Lady Shenandoah and Lady of Camelot are part of quite a stellar crop of 3-year-old fillies last season in Australia. And Lady Shenandoah might be a filly that's more of a miler, 2,000-meter horse in a 4-year-old year. So we don't have to worry about her in the autumn or in the upcoming spring. But I think that form line in itself, I think we came out and we ran against open class horses in the Everest and ran a close fourth. We came out and we ran beating a whisker in a Group 1 against Lady Shenandoah against all the mares. I think with the physical development we've made, having already proven in open Group 1 company, and knowing how well she's come back and hearing the feedback from Gay and Adrian who train her, look, we're heading into this season guns a blazing.
And Tim Clark's been aboard for most of her recent runs, replacing, I guess, Rachel King, who rode her in last year's Everest. How much has that jockey partnership contributed to her, I guess, improved consistency?
No, I would say familiarity. Rachel rode Lady of a lightweight as a 3-year-old filly in the Everest last year, and she rode her well. And we've had a bit of success with Rachel throughout our Go Bloodstock career. Tim rides a lot for Gay and Adrian. He knows their horses. He gets them out quickly, gets them settled quickly, and I think stylistically and the familiarity, the getting her, he suits her stylistically. He knows her well, and I think that helps her to relax and show her best.
Excellent. So quite a bit of a change, I guess, from
Yeah,
last to this time.
yeah, absolutely. And look, Tim's been a he's been a great rider for us for many years, and along with Blake Shinroder in the slipper, and if you get any of them top guys, you have a chance of winning the big ones.
Her autumn campaign took her up to 1,500 meters in the Colmore Classic. Was that distance experiment about, finding her best trip or building the engine for stronger 1,200
Yeah,
meters?
look, I kind of to come back to the sorry to cut you off at the end. She we found the way we were riding her stylistically that she was relaxing really well. And that gave Adrian confidence. Even at the end of a 2-year-old year, Blake rode her and thought she'd get a bit further. We tried to keep speed in her for the Everest, and the Everest is a tough 1,200 meters. It's like a bit like Ryle Ascot. You'd want to be a horse that can run 7 furlongs to be a contender because it's uphill and it's a tough 1,200. You got to be there, and there's no where to hide. So we wanted to, it opens up options for us. It gives us options to target those races in the autumn. It gives us options to look at a race like the Golden Eagle in the upcoming spring, which is for 4-year-olds here. It's worth a lot of money. It's over 1,500 meters. So the race in the autumn was nearly a trial run for that race to see if she'd go well over the course and distance, and pleasingly she did.
Perfect. The betting market clearly didn't respect her chances last year, as I mentioned. This time around, do you feel the slot holders and punters are finally, seeing what you've always believed was there?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I think we came into the Everest last year of a low power run, one of the only ones of her career, and it was probably the wrong race to go for because she was just beaten very shortly, very short distance in a Group 1 prior. So we probably should have kept her fresh for the Everest in hindsight. So I think that affected her price in a negative way because I think if she came into the race off a Group 1 placing, she would have been a lot shorter. Um, I think now some Bella Nipotina, who won the race last year, is now retired. The growing empire who ran alongside us is now a stallion at Yulong, and with Giga Kick, he was only subpar in the autumn. So the horses that finished ahead of her are gone, and look in the up and coming ranks, I think she's as good as any. So I think she'll prove that when she comes back, and yeah, I think she has to be right up there in selections, and I think she will be shorter price by the time of October. So.
Excellent. And now I'd like to talk a bit more in case she does secure another Everest slot. How will you approach that race differently this time? What tactical lessons from last year's campaign will most likely influence her preparation?
Look, I hope first and foremost we get a slot. Hopefully, we draw a better barrier than 11 of 12. And if we do, it allows us an easier run. It allows us to find our ideal position, which is how we rode her in the autumn, just in behind the leader. And we know when she's on the front, it takes a really tough horse to if she follows the leader around the bend into the last 300 meters and she hits the front, it takes a really tough one to past her. And I think stylistically, um, we'll ride her a little bit differently, and we just need a bit of luck with the barrier and in the run to give her a chance.
And what's the plan, of course, as you get towards the Everest? And even what would be the plan beyond the Everest?
Look, she's as a as a now a 4-year-old mare, Golden Slipper winner. She's a very valuable commodity. So the Everest is first and foremost our target number one in October. She'll likely race once or twice in September in the lead up to that contest. So you'll see her at the trials shortly and over the next 2 weeks. Um, and then she'll get the Golden Eagle, which is that big money race for 4-year-olds on, I think it's November the 1st this year, will be her second big target. And then we'll keep her fresh and we'll consider European to sign off her career in Europe in the Northern Hemisphere. So we'll look at a race like the Golden Jubilee and Royal Ascot because we think she 1,200 meters at Ascot it would suit her down to the ground, knowing that she can stay a bit further and she has electric speed and a turn of foot. And it would be wonderful to have a Golden Slipper winner race at Royal Ascot. I'm not sure it's ever been done, so hopefully it would be a remarkable achievement if we could breed a horse that could win the Golden Slipper and contend in a race like a Golden Jubilee at Ascot. And a races even in Dubai like the Al Qiyas sprint down the Dubai Strait. If that wouldn't be off the table, considering just depending on the filly at a certain time, but we would definitely, I think, as you saw with how many times she's raced, we've never shied from a challenge, and that's not going to change.
Excellent. How does she handle traveling?
Look, I suppose internationally is we don't know because we haven't done it, but she's had no issues traveling to Queensland and traveling to Melbourne. And as we know, Australia is not a small place,
That's
so
true.
those trips are 8 and 9 hour trips sometimes. And she's ran second and third in Group Ones in Melbourne consistently, and that's a 9 hour trip. So she's never had any issues traveling to so far. And touch wood, that remains the case. She's very good mentally, and I think that stands her in good stead.
For sure. That definitely helps, for sure. And finally, on to the last question. Do you have any other horses in your stables that you are especially excited about?
Look, we do have I suppose the top of that list is actually a horse European followers might know. It's a horse called Delius. He's called Sir Delius here in Australia because there was a similar name. But he's a very much a Cox Plate Melbourne Cup horse down here. So he's a 2,000 meter plus stayer. He was a group winner in France. He won his only start in the autumn. And we think he's right up there with the better middle distance horses in the country. And he's a horse that we'd love to travel with internationally as well. And yeah, he'd be at top of the ranks, and there's a few young horses coming through the ranks, and hopefully they'll put their hands up in the next 6 months as 2 year olds. But on in the older division, Sir Delius is one to definitely follow because he's a big son of Franco. He seems to be improving every time I see him, and he's one to definitely put in the black book.
Beautiful. Excellent. Well, thank you so much for the interview. That was great.
Perfect. Well, thanks for having me.